Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Millennial Bard. So, for those of you who've been following my channel for long enough, and especially recently, you know that I've started with this new format where every weekend I come at you guys with a feature of the week, whether that's a movie that's recently released or an upcoming movie, a TV show. Then I talk about some news pieces, the biggest news topics from the week, some recommendations for you guys, maybe an editorial piece. Um, so, thanks so much for all of you who've joined in this show. I've got a very special guest joining us on the show tonight. That's my um, friendly neighborhood Spidey on the show today. So, without any further delay, let's get straight into it. Where do we- All right. So I did a bit of soul searching this time around. Actually, it just happened last night because I couldn't sleep. And what I came up with was that a live stream just sounds a little too casual. So instead, I decided to rebrand the our weekend live streams to the Sunday show. So this is the Sunday show brought to you by the Millennial Bard. The structure pretty much remains the same. To sum it up, it's been quite an insane week for comic book fans, for fans of comic book films specifically. So we've had extreme highs and extreme lows. There has been a fair bit of disappointment this week as well, but we're going to talk all about that later in the show today. Before we get started, just a few messages for you guys. So first of all is, please don't shy away from engaging in the comments, dropping your thoughts, whatever topics that we're covering. If you've got an opinion, if you've got a question, please fire them in the comment section below. I'd love to take as many comments as possible because, like I always say, the mic is mine, but the channel is yours, the show is yours. So it's as much yours as it is mine. The other thing is that in case you feel there is an issue with whether it's an audio issue or you're facing an issue with the video, whatever, please fire them in the comments because when I'm running the show I'm kind of running blind. So you guys are my eyes and ears for this show, so please let me know if there's any issues. And the final thing is that please keep it civil and keep it chill. We're here to talk about the things that we love. A disagreement is totally fine. We cannot all agree on everything here. But even if you've got to disagree, and I'm all up for it, please be a bit respectable. That's all I ask of you. Um, Now, what's going to happen on today's show? So first of all, I'm going to start with the headlines. So these are four or five biggest news pieces in pop culture, in superhero, in cinema from this week. After that, I would be going to the news desk where I would be dissecting these news pieces in a bit more detail. So if you don't have enough time, I think just listening to the headlines should cover it for you. But the news desk is where I give my views, my commentary on those news pieces. After that, usually I do a feature of the week where I talk about uh, something that's released this week or something that's coming up next week. And I do a very detailed discussion on that. There's a bit of a change this time. Spider-Man, as you all know, as you can probably see here, is my favorite superhero of all time, and this movie was just so good that I decided it deserves a video all dedicated to itself. So instead of doing a full-on spoiler-filled discussion around Spider-Man, I'm just going to touch on it for like 2 or 3 minutes, talk about everything that I loved about this movie. And there's also two or three other pieces that I want to talk about, things that I've recently watched or one very special show that's releasing this week. After that, we go into the Bard Stake. So this is our editorial section where I talk about um, a bigger theme, right? Something that's happening in the industry, something that's going on. Um, Basically, something that's not just confined to one movie or one TV show. It is about a bigger topic, and I just present my views on that. After that, we go into trailer reaction. So the latest trailer that's dropped, this week, I give my take on that. I share my views, what I loved, what I did not love. So that's all about that. And then the most important section of this video is the community Q&A, because this is where I take all of your comments and questions, all of your views, your questions, whatever it is, I address all of them. And after that, I end with the Bard's watch list. I was struggling to come up with a watch list for this week because there were just so many overarching themes that were kind of clashing against each other. I do have one theme. So what I'm gonna do is I don't really have them on the slides, but I am gonna mention those things in passing, and then later on in the day, I'm gonna post a short with that specific watch list, so you can save it, you can go through the content in there, and let's get started with it. Like I said, it's been a pretty interesting week. There's so much that's happened this week. The good, the bad, a bit of ugly as well, if I'm being honest. So here are the biggest headlines from this week. The first one: Spider-Man Brand New Day. And guys, you heard it on the show here, right? Like, I think it was last week or last to last week, on one of my streams. I think I even said it when I did the Spider-Man trailer breakdown, that this has the potential to be the biggest Spider-Man movie. Well, Spider-Man Brand New Day has just broken an Avengers Endgame record. We're going to talk about that in just a second. After that, it's a series of disappointments. So, Blade, which had Mahershala Ali playing the titular role. There was a lot of excitement around that project. Apparently, is dead. Wonder Man, the season 2 was announced earlier this year, but it seems that even that isn't happening. And finally, from DC as well, like, if Marvel's doing everything, how can DC be left behind? So it seems like Booster Gold is also cancelled for the moment. Um, so we've got one big news piece, really positive one, and that is like really positive, right? And then the other three are kind of disappointing. So it's been quite a roller coaster of a week, if I'm being honest. But let's get on to the news desk and dissect all of these topics in a bit more detail. So, Spider Man Brand New Day has just set a box office record with $72 million in previews, beating Avengers Endgame at the US domestic box office. Man, this is big news. This is big news for a lot of reasons. Firstly, for my channel, it still upholds a bit of my respect, because I was really flying high and, thumping my chest, saying that this is going to be the biggest Spider-Man movie there can ever be. It's going to be the best Spider-Man movie. So in Hindi, we say कि मेरी लाज रख ली. That's what it's really come down to. But there was a lot of anticipation with this movie, a lot of expectations, and when a movie that carries so much expectation actually ends up doing well, it's just a feel good for all of us, right? Like, not just the filmmakers, not just the corporations, but even fans like you and I, because we are so invested in these IPs, in these characters, in these stories, in these worlds, right? That willingly or unwillingly, consciously or unconsciously, we feel like we're a part of that world as well. So in that sense, I feel really happy about this piece of news. For those of you who may not know, Avengers Endgame has been the highest grossing movie in the history of cinema. Of course, um, if you talk about total box office collection, then yes, Avatar kind of moves past it, because they re-released that. But Avengers Endgame held the record for the biggest opening ever. Now, if I was just to go through the list, at number one, we had Avengers Endgame, which had a total gross of. Uh, I'm so sorry. I feel like the font is really small for me to check out here. So they had an opening of $357 million worldwide. After that, there was Spider-Man No Way Home. Again, that was such a major moment. That was such a big, significant moment in the history of pop culture, with Spider-Man No Way Home, and for everything that movie achieved. followed by Avengers Infinity War, then Star Wars Episode 7, Star Wars Episode 8, Deadpool and Wolverine, which is also the highest grossing R-rated or A-rated movie in the history of cinema. After that, there was Jurassic World, The Avengers, Black Panther, and The Lion King. Now, one thing that I want to pull your attention towards here is, if you look at this entire list, there is just one movie that is not a Disney film or a Disney related film. Out of the top 10 highest grossing openers in the history of Hollywood, nine of them are all Disney. Whether you're looking at Lion King, Black Panther, Avengers, Spider Man No Way Home, all of that. Spider Man No Way Home, yes, it is a bit debatable because while it is an extension of Marvel Studios, it still is a Sony production, at its core. But even then, it is an extension of the Marvel brand. So I'm going to consider it as that. Now, the projections that have been coming have been that Spider-Man Brand New Days opening weekend numbers is going to be somewhere around 275 to 280 million dollars worldwide. And looking at it, yes, it seems very likely it might just replace Spider-Man No Way Home to grab that second spot. But fingers crossed, there is still potential. There is still hope that it might dethrone Avengers Endgame, because let's be honest, Avengers Endgame was a long time ago. And yes, that was a story that was in the works for like 10, 11, 12, 13 years. Right. Spider-Man's been around for 10 years, like at least the Tom Holland Spider-Man. The first one came out in 2016, in 2017 actually, but his first appearance was in Captain America Civil War. This franchise has had its original trilogy, the home trilogy, I'd call it, because Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. But some also refer to it as the High School trilogy. And this movie was uh, it was the beginning of a new trilogy. So it was like a young adult Peter Parker who's coming to terms with being Spider-Man. He's left everything behind. So I'm really excited. I still feel there is a chance. I know it's a long shot, but I still believe there is a chance that it might have the record for the highest opening in the history of cinema. So moving beyond now, we've spoken enough about the good stuff. It's time to face the music and really go towards the sad side. And this comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. So Blade was a project that was announced, I think, in 2021 or something, like, yeah, 5 years ago at Comic Con. And it was such a big deal because, truth be told, yes, people would say that The Dark Knight really established, superhero movies at the front and center of Hollywood. Some might say it was the X-Men movies, but to be really honest, I feel it was the Blade movies because of the action, the themes that they were going on with. It was also the first time that a Hollywood movie really tried to merge superheroes and supernatural slash horror elements together. Um, so when this movie was announced, firstly, Mahershala Ali is such a beloved actor when it comes to Hollywood. The projects that he's been associated with, he is such a charming dude. He's such a charming actor, and he really owns every role that he's ever taken on. Um, I think he's won the Oscar twice, or he's a two-time nominee. I'm kind of mixing it up here. Yes, so he won an Oscar. So the excitement was pretty much through the roof, right? Like, there's gonna be a supernatural Blade movie about vampires, and it's gonna be all blood and gore and everything. And then, because this was an announcement that was made in the Bob Chapek era, now let me remind you, to those who don't remember, Bob Chapek inherited Disney from Bob Iger. Now, Bob Iger is the person who really made Disney successful. Like, Disney was always successful, but he just took it to another level. When Bob Chapek he came on the hill, at that time there was this another project called Disney Plus that was announced. So Disney was supposed to have its own streaming service, and the mandate that was passed on from the CEO of Disney, Lord Bob Chapek, was that try and churn out as much content as possible. And this is an announcement that came at that time. Now, at that time, there were a lot of other projects as well. So there was an Armor Wars, there was so many other movies, and everything that was uh, the names were floated in the market, right? But the Blade was the one that really stuck. But ever since 2021, there was no announcement. There were no updates. There was some delays, and those that kind of hogwash that was given to us off and on. But we knew that nothing really was happening on ground. So this is really heartbreaking because the excitement around this movie was um, pretty high. The only place where Mahershala Ali actually got to play the role of Blade or voice the character of Blade was in this little Disney Plus show, a Marvel show called Marvel Zombies. Now, I'm not a big fan. I'm like, it was fine. It lacked cohesion at its core, but at least Mahershala Ali got the chance to voice this character, right? It is so unfortunate that when the Blade movie was announced, the pre-production work had already started, right? So, like with um, researching for set locations, the writers' room was going at it with full steam, and there was also a lot of costume work that had already been done. Initially, the Blade, as it was announced, it was supposed to be a period piece, right? So somewhere in the early 1900s or something, these vampires, the army of the undead, they walk the earth. It was so unfortunate that because this movie wasn't happening, the costume designer for this movie passed on the costume designs for this movie to another studio, to another movie known as Sinners, which was one of the most successful um, most successful movies from 2025. So it's been really sad. Now, just to go through what the article had, Mahershala Ali confirms he's not doing Marvel's Blade. They didn't want to do it. He said the Oscar winner confirmed he's not going to star in the Blade reboot and suggests the studio didn't want to move forward. If they wanted to do it, we would have done it. Now, this is his quote. I've been doing this professionally for pushing 30 years now. And one thing I've learned is that what is for you, and what is not. Ali said in the new interview, for whatever reason, that project is not for me. If they wanted to do it, we would have done it. So I have to move on, which is totally fair for an actor. Like, it almost makes me think how many projects he would have actually passed on just to keep some available dates for Marvel Blade whenever it would have happened. Um, Again, you had me under contract, he said. They have billions of dollars. If they wanted to do the movie, we would have done the movie. So we're not doing the movie. But I feel ready to move on from the Blade questions. Those questions are for them. They didn't want to do it, so they should answer that question. Um, Again, reading his entire quote, I think he handled it pretty well, pretty maturely, but I still feel there's a bit of hurt, there's a bit of soreness that's coming through the words. And of course, I feel as an artist you're bound to feel a little heartbroken because you've done your entire research, you've given it time, uh, you've mulled over these characters for a given time, right? And you're kind of prepped that yes, the day the cameras start rolling, I'm gonna play Blade. So yeah, it's totally fair if he's feeling heartbroken. In fact, I feel bad for Marshall Ali as well. Further in the article, the lines were Ali's comments were partly in response to being asked about Marvel Studios' boss Kevin Feige telling the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast that he was distressed about his company's inability to get the project going. Um, a very popular quote that had just dropped before San Diego Comic Con this year. Uh, he said on the podcast, I'm feeling like a gigantic loser and failure that we didn't get off the ground with Mahershala, the executive said. Um, so yeah, I think when I read this report, right, when Kevin Feige said that I feel like a gigantic loser, um, I was kind of suspecting that the movie is not really gonna happen. It's pretty much off the table because someone like Kevin Feige, he's been so upbeat ever since the beginning of Marvel Studios, with the first Iron Man, that even when things were going down the gutter, he still had good things to say. He still brought in that fan energy that would still keep people excited on their toes, still keep the hopes alive. But when a person of his stature and his attitude actually acknowledges that, yes, we messed up, we could have handled this situation better, that this thing is, it's just a matter of time before it is formally announced that it's not happening. So I feel really sad about this, but what do you guys think? What were your excitement levels for Blade? Please drop them in the comments below. I had I thought of this really really witty line before the show started. I just forgot to put it, while I was discussing the piece. You know how Blade made me feel ever since it was announced in 2021? Blade felt like that girlfriend, that estranged girlfriend who's kind of ghosted me for a really long time, but I've only just recently got to know that we had broken up a long time ago, or that I was dumped a long time ago. That's the kind of feeling, the kind of emotion that I carry with Blade. But that's life, and the show goes on. But again, we've got another sad piece of news, which is Wonder Man season 2 is not going to happen. We got the first season earlier this year, and that is all there is. Now, this comes to us from Variety. So, the article says Wonder Man not returning for season 2 at Disney Plus, and this was an exclusive at that stage. The news comes despite the fact that Disney announced a season 2 renewal for the show back in March, roughly 2 months after it debuted. According to sources, a writer's room for season 2 was never opened, and the show's writers have been released to pursue other projects. Okay, now I've got thoughts here as well, right? Wonder Man debuted in January, if I'm not mistaken. Like they dropped all the episodes at once. By its premise, it was quite a unique superhero show, right? Like we don't have a lot of superhero shows that are more about human connection than about superpowers. This was one of those shows, right? So you've got two struggling actors living in Hollywood, giving auditions, uh, just trying to find their break. But one of them happens to have powers, and the other one was suspected to have powers. And the character of Trevor Slattery, right, played by Sir Ben Kingsley, of course, one of my favorite actors of all time. Like the range of this dude, his comedic timing as well. I was really excited. The show left me with very mixed feelings. Like I felt like this show was really good. This show would have worked just as well, maybe even better, if it wasn't about superheroes and superpowers at all. Because in my mind, I was kind of wired like, yes, this is a struggling actor living in Hollywood, but it is still gonna be a superhero story. But it wasn't. Superhero was like more of an accessory, but in reality, it was more about two actors just finding, a bit of solace in each other in a very competitive, cutthroat world of cinema. But the more I think about it, the more I reflect upon it, Yes, I liked the show. I would have liked to see a bit more of the superhero side, a bit more of the power set, all of that, because I'm a sucker for superheroes, right? Um, but even then, I think it was still a pretty decent show. If there was a season two, yes, I would have I would have managed my expectations a little better. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have sit for season two thinking about it like it's a superhero show. I would have sat for it um, thinking that this is a show about two struggling actors, or like two actors living in Hollywood and being best buds, and the frequency at which Yahya Abdul Mateen and Ben Kingsley were operating at was just through the roof. Like, I cannot remember the last time. No, actually, I can. I think it might have been Deadpool and Wolverine, where I saw two characters bouncing off of each other so organically and so well. So just for those interactions, just for those exchanges, just for the character of Trevor Slattery and how unhinged he is, I would have sat down for season two. But unfortunately, it's not happening. Season one was really good. So if you're a big fan of the show, you can watch season one, but there's not going to be a season two. But rest assured, there's going to be a lot more of Wonder Man. In the world of Marvel Studios, there is going to be more of Trevor Slattery. I'm certain. Like, if a Shang-Chi 2 happens, if Wonder Man makes an appearance again, I'm pretty sure he's going to be somewhere around the corner. But what did you guys think about Wonder Man season one? Did you like the show? Did you not like the show? And how does this news make you feel that after announcing earlier that there's going to be a season two, now they've cancelled the idea that there's not going to be a season two? How do you feel about all of that? Please don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. And with that, we move to our final news piece of the week. So, DC Studios, under the leadership of James Gunn and Peter Safran, had announced that they were going to do a Booster Gold TV show. Now, Booster Gold is not exactly an A-tier character in the DC mythos. Like, he's not a Batman, a Superman, or a Wonder Woman, right? He's more of like a B tier, C tier character, like a Teen Titans adjacent at some level, a young Avenger maybe. But nevertheless, he's a very interesting character. He's a character, who's pretty unhinged himself. And earlier it was announced that there's a Booster Gold show that's in the works, but now it appears that it's been cancelled. So, more about that from the Hollywood Reporter. David Jenkins, Booster Gold's TV series, DC series, not moving forward at HBO. David Jenkins says his plans for the show have been scrapped and echoed a viral comment from Mahershala Ali. Yes, it's the comment that we discussed just a few minutes ago. According to the article, HBO is not boosting Booster Gold to a series order anytime soon. Writer David Jenkins from Our Flag Means Death posted Friday that his version of the DC Comics adaptation is not moving forward at HBO. He said, "My Booster Gold won't be moving forward," Jenkins wrote on Threads. Jenkins added, "Can't improve on Mahershala's lovely statement that I'll just apply it here as well." A source close to the studio says that Booster Gold will remain a project in development. Booster Gold was first announced in development in 2023. Jenkins was attached to write the pilot last year. So, yeah, this is not good news, especially for DC, who were finally finding their stride. This is not a good look. There were also reports that they were supposed to do a couple of other shows. So one was Paradise Lost. Again, we've not heard on anything about that show. Then there was another one which was so I'm forgetting the name right now. But it was the engineer from the Superman movie last year. So she is part of that team as well. So that was another TV show that was in the works, but we haven't heard anything. There have been rumors that it's been cancelled if it hasn't been confirmed already. So it's not a good look. But the good part here is that yes, it's not going to be a David Jenkins show, but that last bit, it kind of still kept my hopes alive, where it says that the studio says that Booster Gold will remain a project in development. The only thing being that it is not going to be done by David Jenkins anymore. They're going to have to find a new writer, a new team to work on this show. So there is still hope, fingers crossed. But what do you guys think about this news? What do you feel about Booster Gold as a TV series? Whatever your thoughts, please drop them in the comments below. And with that, we move on to the next section of our Sunday show today, which is the Watch Report. Now, I told you earlier, usually I do a feature of the week where it's like the biggest thing that I've watched or the biggest thing I'm preparing to watch in a given week. This time, it's not about one thing because, truth be told, I am really excited. Like, I think on last year and how it felt, this month, this time last year, it wasn't as exciting or as buzzed with energy as it is this year. Because let's be honest, Odyssey is still running houseful in theaters. Spider-Man Brand New Day has hijacked all the screens, all the theaters except for IMAX, and it is so difficult to find a ticket as well. Even on the TV front, there is so much good stuff that's coming out, that a part of me is really struggling, and I'm being honest with you, I'm really struggling to keep up with everything that's coming out. But as a fan, I'm still really happy that there's so much good stuff from all of these characters that I really love and adore. So I've got three or four different things that I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just give my my top level thoughts on those. The first one is, of course, my favorite, Spider-Man Brand New Day. It opened in the theaters this week, and man, what an experience. I did say it has the potential to be the biggest Spider-Man movie. I also said it had the potential to be the best Spider-Man movie. But in my view, it is the most complete Spider-Man story before anything else. And here's how, right? Emotionally, this movie touched on so many beats. It was reminiscent of certain moral conundrums. A guy being split across two different lives and just constantly having to decide on what to do. Where No Way Home ended was such a heartbreaking moment. But this movie does not skip a beat. It picks up from there. It shows us that Peter Parker, Spider Man, he is overworked. Like, he is really pushing himself into crime fighting all the time just to fill that void in his life, right? Because he doesn't have his family, he doesn't have friends anymore. He's basically all alone. Apart from that, the entire thing about his eyes going black. Now, please, I'd just like to put it out here. This is a spoiler free section. I am not going to give out any spoilers here, because later this week I'm going to publish a full-fledged, recorded, edited, polished video that is going to be all about Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's going to be filled with spoilers. It's going to be filled with some of my theories, some of the things that I am expecting, anticipating, what I'm thinking. So that's why I'm not going to be talking about the spoilers, but just the good stuff. um, so I really like that. I really like the dynamics between Peter and MJ in this movie, especially because MJ does not remember who Peter Parker is. Um, Even with Ned, like, Ned has been the unsung hero of the Tom Holland trilogy. I don't feel like the guy gets his due in these movies for how good he is as the comic relief, but also the heart of these films. Um, so even Ned and his character, how um, he's basically addicted to energy drinks after MIT, and he's still that kid at heart, right? I really loved that. I loved watching The Punisher in this. Now, I've said it enough times. John Bernthal is my man. I love that dude. I love his acting. I love his philosophy, his ideology when it comes to his craft. Every single time that he's on the screen, you see a different person. And the way he did Punisher is probably the best uh, Marvel TV character that's been done by anyone, right? And John Bernthal as well. Like, when I looked at the trailer, as much as I was excited about John being in this movie as the Punisher, I was also thinking to myself that, dude, in this movie, right? How does a grunt fit into a Spider-Man movie? Because if you look at the moral spectrum, uh, Spidey and Punisher sit at two extreme ends of that, right? Like, Spidey wants to save every person that he can, even if it means that someone close to him has to die. Case in point, Spider-Man No Way Home, where his aunt died because he couldn't kill any of the villains. Whereas Punisher, he doesn't he doesn't care. He feels that anyone who's done something bad deserves just one thing, that is death. So for these two characters to have that kind of chemistry together was just so fresh. It was so nice, and it was nice to see that this is something that has been very iconic for Spider-Man, especially in the Tom Holland movies. That how Peter Parker or Spider-Man tends to have this positive impact, on the people around him, how he's able to change others because of his way of thinking, how he believes in the good in people, and how that rubs off on others, like no matter how um, delusional, corrupted, angry, violent the other person is. And it was so nice to see that with Punisher as well, because for the first time we saw a guy who wasn't just bitter, but because of the sheer overwhelming positivity that Spidey or Peter Parker carried within him, it rubbed off on a grunt like him as well. Um, so that was a big positive for me. The action was on another level. The swinging action in this movie was on another level. I felt like the Andrew Garfield movies had the best swinging sequences. This movie is just dethroned that one for me, because a lot of the what do you call it, a lot of the swinging action, it felt like it was picked up directly from the Insomniac Spider-Man games. And again, I am a sucker for those games. Like, before I played this Spider-Man game, Arkham Knight was my favorite comic book game ever. And I mean, it's still a pretty good game. It's still a damn good game. Like, the action, it's you still play that game and you're still just as engaged. But when I played Insomniac Spider-Man, and I'm talking about the first one, suddenly it felt like it was at such a scale. The game mechanics, the game physics, everything was just on another level. The music as well, the gameplay experience. And the biggest thing was that how many different moves there were, how many different combos there were. And even when you're swinging, there's so many different ways for you to swing. Um, so them picking up that from the game was such a big plus for me. Even in some of the finisher moves, you see that. And Tom Holland himself acknowledged that they picked a lot of those things from the game. So that made me really happy. I think it's been quite a while since I went to a movie and it felt like I was sitting in a stadium or sitting in like the Council of Gangs. If if you get that reference, because the first time in this movie, when Peter's just running off on a building roof and he finally jumps, and then he swings. Man, my theater was just, everyone was shouting like it was a World Cup final match, or like, that excitement level and that feeling of community, like you belong to something, or rather Spider-Man belongs to all of us, and that's what connects all of us people sitting in a theater together. Like it might be too romantic to say this, but please bear with me. With superheroes, especially if I talk about Spidey, if I talk about Batman, and if I talk about Superman now, these characters belong to all of us, right? We grew up with these characters. These characters have also grown up with us. So as we grew up, we got to see different versions of them. So there's like a darker version, there's a lighter version, there's a goofier version, there's a serious, the whole thing, right? So it goes both ways. But the truly beautiful thing is that when you go to a theater, in this vast universe, in this vast, ever expanding universe, at one point in time, all of us existed in a same place, in the same spot, because of one thing. And that's the power of superheroes for me, that's the power of pop culture for me, to be honest. And that's one of the biggest drivers of why I do what I do. So it felt so nice that Spider-Man Brand New Day gave us that experience again. And man, I want to go watch this movie again. I just can't seem to find tickets, so maybe I'll try my luck and find tickets over the weekday or over the week. So maybe go out on a Wednesday or a Thursday earlier if possible, because I think it would be slightly easier to get tickets. But those were my thoughts on Marvel Studios Spider-Man Brand New Day. And please don't forget, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to do a full movie breakdown later this week. So please keep an eye out for when that video drops. The next thing that I want to talk about is Spider-Noir. Bro, we Spider-Man fans are eating good this year because there's just so much Spider-Man stuff coming. And see, here's the thing that happens with me, right? Whenever I watch um, a good Spider-Man movie or a good Batman movie, I want to revisit those characters, like maybe in the same medium, maybe in a different medium, maybe get a different experience. With Batman, when I watched Robert Pattinson's Batman, for the first time in the theater, I came back and I watched the entire Nolan trilogy. I watched, the old ones with Val Kilmer, with George Clooney, all of those. I went back to Batman the Animated Series. With Spider-Man as well, as soon as I was done with the movie, I was like, man, I want to go back home. I want to fire up the PlayStation and I want to start swinging through New York again because I want to sit with this character even more. Of course, that wasn't possible. It's just been 3 days, and there's been so much stuff for me to prep to work through that I couldn't fire up the PlayStation. But luckily, I had started Spider Noir, I think a few weeks ago. So I still had a few episodes left before the season ended. And I did, and dude, such a good show. Such a good show. I had expectations from this because, of course, the greatest actor of the past generation, Mr. Nicolas Cage, was in this movie. He was acting as Ben Riley, the spider from the 1920s or the 1930s, it is. Yeah. Um, and there is no question about his craft, about his acting chops. But beyond that as well, the show was such an experience. It was such a fun ride. Firstly, um credit where it's due. Thank you so much to Prime Video, thank you so much to Amazon Studios, to Sony Entertainment, for giving us the option on whether we want to watch it in color or in black and white. Now, Here's why it really matters, right? Um, in ever since the MCU took off, all of us fans, we've been bombarded with so much color, so much brightness, so much contrast on the screens. Like every single thing is a visual spectacle, um, that you kind of get desensitized to it, if you know what I mean, right? That you're looking at so much color all the time that there comes a point where every visual effect, every CGI, every color just starts looking the same, and there's like nothing interesting about it. But then you've got a show which gets rid of all of that, right? Like I'm specifically talking about the black and white. It strips away everything else and goes back to the basics, which is about light and dark, which is about black and white. So watching this show, it was such a nice palate cleanser. It was almost like sniffing coffee beans after you've tried so many fragrances, so many perfumes, right? But even beyond that, you start appreciating what true um, filmmaking or true camera work is all about. Like it's not just colors. You can't just inject color into everything and just uh, make it work. But you have to have a special kind of talent to really understand how lighting works, and that's something that really comes through if you watch the show in black and white. Now, initially I thought that I would watch one episode in black and white and the other one in color, so like alternating the episodes. I did that. I watched the first episode in black and white and the second one in color, and then the third one I started with black and white. And then I was like, yeah, screw it, dude, I'll watch the whole thing in black and white, and the next time I watch the show, I'm gonna watch it in color, and damn sure I'm gonna watch it again. So I really loved how it worked for me in black and white. It still kept me engaged. The characters were deeply, deeply how do I say it? Not just endearing, like some characters were endearing, but every single character was memorable for me. Special credit to Lamont Morris because, dude, one of the best comedy shows that I've ever watched in my life is New Girl, and Lamont Morris was the star of that show. Like him and Jake Johnson were the two guys really carrying that show from beginning to end. And him as Robbie Robertson in this show again was such a treat. His comic timing, his tongue-in-cheek humor, worked brilliantly for me. The receptionist for Ben Riley, I'm forgetting the actress's name, but even she's such a nice presence in this show. Like she is kind of the counterbalance to Ben Riley, to his eccentricities and everything. um, Even the lady who plays Cat in this show. While I was watching the show, I was like, I've seen this lady somewhere, but then I recalled that she was the shopkeeper, the Asian shopkeeper in Sinners, and I loved her in that movie as well. And even in this show, um, her character demanded a lot of restraint, yet a lot of oomph and a lot of pizzazz. Um, and such a nice treat. Brendan Gleeson, again, he's a legend of the game. He's a legend of the industry, and he did not let us down. So overall, it was such an amazing show. Um, it almost while you're watching it, like when I went in for the first episode, I was like, yeah, this is connected to the Sony Spider Verse movies, right? Like the Miles Morales across the Spider Verse and into the Spider Verse movies. But once I started, I think within the first 10 minutes of the first episode, I kind of forgot what the show was connected to, and I was just invested in the show for what it was, all by itself. And such a good show, such a nice premise, lots of Easter eggs as well along the way. The feeling of a 1920s New York in black and white is a thing in itself. I also noticed a lot of, like, if the show is called Spider Noir, this actually felt like noir cinema. There were a lot of moments that felt very like they were taken from the playbook of an Alfred Hitchcock, right? Whether um, it's Vertigo or what's the other one? I'm forgetting that name, but yeah, you see what the inspiration for the show is visually. So again, if you haven't watched it, I would strongly recommend you go and watch the show. It is such a wild ride. It is such a treat, and I've got my fingers crossed because I want the show to continue for at least 5 more seasons, if not more. The next thing that I want to talk about is Cape Crusader. When I did, what DC is up to 2026 earlier this year, it has been one of my most consistently performing videos on TMB here. This is a show that I was really excited for. Now, three of the four executive producers on the show, and just listen to the names, right? You've got Bruce Timm, who's given us some of the best animated shows, some of the best superhero content through the decades. Whether it was during the Cartoon Network era or after the Cartoon Network era, he's an executive producer on this show. So you know that the animated show is gonna be at a certain level. The other one is Matt Reeves, who gave me and the world arguably the best Batman movie that we've ever had in the form of the Batman starring Robert Pattinson. Um, Again, that gave me hope. That yeah, this show's got to be special, right? Like two of the greatest minds. The third executive producer was J.J. Abrams. Again, he's a name that's been associated with some of the biggest IPs in Hollywood, whether you're talking like Star Trek, Star Wars, the whole shebang, right? So this show was promising, but when it released, I think the first season dropped in 2024. I did not see it coming. Like I watched the first season 2 months after it had been out already, and I watched it keeping my expectations relatively low. I knew that it is unfair for me to compare anything to Batman the Animated Series because that is still the best animated show that I've ever watched in my life, and that's saying something. When I watched the first season, the animation, the style, the creative choices, the stylistic choices was it was so reminiscent of Batman the Animated Series that I was instantly a fan of the show. Initially, when I just looked at the poster, like even if you look here, with the smaller gloves and there's like no spikes on his gauntlet, and his ears are slightly longer and slightly going outwards, right? So from a character design perspective, they went to the older Batman comics, right? So I'm talking like action comics, maybe. No, not action. I think he was still in Detective Comics, but some of the first Batman appearances in comics, it felt like his suit was heavily inspired and derived from that version, right? And I wasn't big on that design, but as I watched the show, the first season, I was hooked, man, because I really fell in love. The entire city, the cars, the tech, how all of it looks exactly like Batman the Animated Series, which kind of seemed like it's a show that exists um, in a different time, but still stylistically feels like sometime in the 1930s maybe. Um, so the first season was really crazy. They took a few wild swings. Like Penguin is not a man but a woman in this show. Took a few other creative liberties, and they've done it for season two as well. Now, I don't want to give a full reaction, full review right now because I'm still like 3 episodes short of completing the season. But so far so good. it's looking so good. Riddler seems to be the main antagonist of this season, but you've also got Joker on a murdering spree in the background. Like every episode ends with Joker murdering another influential person in Gotham City. So I think towards the finale of the season, they are gonna come face to face. But I'm gonna hold my thoughts on that, and maybe next week's live stream I can actually do a full on breakdown of Batman Cape Crusader season 2. But in case you missed it, it is streaming on Prime Video right now. Please go and check it out. And the final thing that I want to talk about, and this makes me really excited, right? One of the one of the best, the best TV shows that I've ever watched in my life is Ted Lasso. See, in the 2000s, all of us were taken by this Game of Thrones wave, right? Um, in the 20s as well, I'd say, with shows like The Boys, The Invincible, and everything, there was like a lot of stuff that was glorifying dark characters, characters who are very selfish, characters who are bad, who are ugly, who are extremely complex. But then there's a show called Ted Lasso, which comes along very silently, not a lot of noise surrounding it, quietly drops on Apple TV, and suddenly it changes the landscape of TV in the world. Because what happens is you get a Ted Lasso, you get The Bear. Suddenly, there are so many feel good TV shows that have started coming ever since Ted Lasso. But for me, Ted Lasso is still the OG feel good show of this decade, right? Um, I love the first three seasons. It's about Ted Lasso, an American football coach. Like American football is kind of like rugby, but with helmets and other gear. But he's a guy who doesn't know anything about European football, or like soccer as they call it. I will never call it soccer. I'm sorry. Um, and how suddenly this guy coming from the US to the UK, not just has to pick up a new sport, he has to coach a team. He has to culturally assimilate himself, in this new country, in this new city, make friends, leave his family behind, and everything. Like the show had so many themes, and I loved every single thing about it. I seriously feel Ted Lasso has been one of the strongest shows. I mean, not just the theme, the writing, the concepts, the performances, the music. All in all, the entire package is like a near perfect show. At no point across the previous three seasons did I feel like the show was dragging anywhere, or like it dropped the ball. Um, when season three ended, it felt like the end of the show. Like that's it for Ted Lasso. But I was so glad when they announced that there's gonna be a season four, and it's gonna drop this week. I think it's gonna be on the 5th. So we've just got about two. Now a few things have changed this time around. So Ted Lasso is not the coach for the men's team. He would now be coaching the women's team, uh, which comes with its own set of complications. But I feel like it still has so much scope for very fun interactions, very deep interactions as well. Of course, coaching lads and coaching ladies is a very different ball game. All things said and done. Um, so in that regard, like I'm really excited to just see Ted Lasso with all of his goodness. He's such a beloved character, like one of the best that I've ever seen. I think he sits right next to Phil Dunphy when it comes to the most endearing characters that I've ever watched on TV. So there are a few recurring characters. Like I told you, there's not going to be the men's team, it is all about the women's team this time around. But Hannah Weddingham as the team owner, she's going to be back in the show. Uh, Coach Beard is going to be in the show as well, the most unhinged character in this entire show. There's gonna be the lady who's like the comms manager for this team, and my favorite, Mr. Roy Kent, penny for a curse in the jar, and dude, I'm just makes me happy to no end. Ted Lasso, The Bear, the two shows, the most feel good shows that you could ever find on TV right now. The new season is dropping this year. My expectations are through the roof. It's gonna drop on Apple TV. So if you don't have access to Apple TV, maybe start calling up your friends that you've lost touch with, who still got an Apple TV subscription. Get their password, get their ID, give it a watch. It is gonna be a wild one. All right. So that was the watch report from this week. Now I want to talk about a bigger theme. That's the topic of the week, and it is about DC. Man, I've said it quite a few times. I said it last year. I said it this year as well. That I am a bit more excited for DC than I am for MCU, because sometime around last year, like I think right after I watched Captain America Brave New World, I'm sorry, I felt like MCU started feeling a bit stale. It felt like MCU had lost its direction. Every project kind of started feeling the same. The humor started feeling forced. So I was dropping off of that bandwagon, but I love James Gunn. I love everything that James Gunn has done in the superhero space. So James Gunn coming at the helm of DC Studios, I was like, yeah, I'm really excited for what's gonna happen in this corner of pop culture, right? And I'm gonna be honest, it seemed very promising at first. It seemed extremely fresh, visually, tonally, it felt very fresh. But I was excited. This was the beginning of something new, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of scope here, and maybe DC would be able to work upon the shortcomings of Marvel, and take the lessons from there and just give us a better cinematic universe. Now, it was quite a start pause situation for them, because let's be honest, it wasn't the smoothest transition or the smoothest beginning, right? Because first and foremost, James Gunn did the Suicide Squad during the pandemic. I think it was 2021, if I'm not mistaken. That dropped straight on HBO Max. A good movie. It was a good movie. I still feel I had a lot of fun watching that movie. It was a massive upgrade on the David Ayer Suicide Squad. He introduced the character of Peacemaker, but of course, at that point of time, no one knew that James Gunn would be taking over, DC Studios. Then we get to know that there is gonna be a Peacemaker TV show, and James Gunn is gonna be making that TV show. And man, the first season of Peacemaker was just, it was mind blowing. Like the comedy, the writing, the theme, the characters, everything was just such a breath of fresh air. It was almost like um I- it was so weird. I don't even have an adjacent example to give, right? But it was so nice. John Cena was such a revelation in that TV show. After Peacemaker season 1 was done, suddenly it got announced that James Gunn is going to be heading DC Studios, and he's going to kind of do a soft reboot, which is fine. Yeah, he's a fresh creator who wants to do things his way. And let's be honest, the DC extended universe wasn't doing very well anyhow. Like, in its second or third movie itself, the cinematic universe was starting. It had started to crumble. They had a few wins, of course, whether that's Wonder Woman, Man of Steel. Shazam, but for the most part, they were still struggling. Now they announced that James Gunn is going to be leading DCU, but here are the projects that are still in the pipeline, that are still in production. So we're going to release all of these, and then James Gunn is going to take on DC Studios full on. So we get a string of movies. I think there was Aquaman, the Lost Kingdom. There was Wonder Woman 84. There was Blue Beetle. I think, yeah, even Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and The Flash. So we had these 4 or 5 different movies that came out, but we knew that they're not. They are the remnants of a crumbling empire. Then James Gunn came up with Peacemaker. No, actually, I think Creature Commandos was the first James Gunn DCU project that came out. And Creature Commandos was just through the roof. It was such a good show. The first season, again, it felt very similar to the Suicide Squad that James Gunn did in terms of the tone, the themes, the characters, their interactions, and the needle drops. Um, I loved that show. I loved Creature Commandos. But yes, this is the first James Gunn project, but it is not the first James Gunn movie. And James Gunn himself, he comes on to, I don't know if it was Threads or Twitter or maybe on Instagram, but somewhere, or maybe some interview. And he says that Superman is going to be the official kickoff of this new DC universe. Fine, yeah, looks good, sounds good. I'm excited for Superman. Then Superman drops last year, and man, that was an experience. I was raving about that movie. I still rave about that movie every time I get a chance because for me, it was the best Superman movie that I've ever had. Okay, so we've got a Superman movie. What next, Jimmy boy? And okay, there's gonna be Peacemaker season 2. Again, that season started off really well, but it all went down the gutter in the finale. I did not like that finale. Like, out of the 6 episodes or the 8 episodes, I think I loved the 7 episodes, but the last one was such a massive disappointment. But regardless, I still felt like DC had a fair bit of momentum behind it, right? Cool. All right, Jimmy boy, what's coming up next? Next year, Jimmy says we are gonna get Supergirl, we're gonna get the Lanterns TV show, and we're gonna get a Clayface movie. And suddenly I'm like, hmm. So we get Creature Commandos, which is like um, a really C tier or D tier team within DC. That's fine. Peacemaker is almost an unknown entity. He's like a B or C tier villain. He's not even an A tier villain. He's a C tier villain. Okay, never mind. It's a well written show. It still works well. Superman, yes. We get one of the holy trinity of DC. I'm really excited. Yeah, things are getting started now. Cool. But then Supergirl, uh, could I be excited for a Supergirl movie? It helped get me excited because, yes, the comic that this movie was based on, I loved it. Like, the source material was just on another level, right? So I had hopes from the movie. Of course, it did not live up to my expectations. And the more the time goes by, the more I feel like, yeah, I really did not like that movie. It's gonna drop on streaming any day now, but yeah, I don't think I'm gonna watch it again. Like, once is enough. Then you've got Lanterns, which hasn't had the best of marketing. Being really honest, because what happened, um, earlier this year when Warner Brothers decided that they wanted to drop trailers for everything that's coming out this year. So they had stuff around House of the Dragons, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, or yeah, they had something about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms as well. You had a bit of this and a bit of that, but The highlight for that was the Lanterns TV show. And the first thing that they dropped was like a 10-second clip, and that was just like a blink and miss kind of a thing. And then finally we get our trailer, but it's not really great, doesn't get us excited. And now we get a new trailer, which looks a lot better than the previous one. But Lanterns as well, it's had its release date moved, I think, a couple of times, if not more. Now, what's coming up next? Yeah, we got Clayface. We got Man of Tomorrow coming next year, which is going to be like the big movie. But in the meantime, you're still going to get Lanterns and Clayface. Okay, okay, James, no problem. But I've said it earlier as well. Like Clayface has the potential to be a cult classic. It's going to bring a lot of people together, especially people who are into horror films, into horror shows, and just want to have something in the superhero space that is related, that is more horror centric, especially body horror. But does a Clayface promise you the kind of financial and critical response akin to a Batman or a Wonder Woman or a Superman? No, it does not. Most studios are a bit more forward thinking, right? Especially, I mean, Marvel takes it a little too seriously, like whatever happened with Blade. But the thing was that Marvel still um, lets us know, right? Like what's coming out next year, what's coming out the year after that. James Gunn, pretty early on, he set the expectations clear that um, things are going to work differently around here. We will not greenlight a show until the script is ready. He said that. He said that. And I was like one of the first guys to actually cheer for that statement. And suddenly Superman came in. I was happy with Creature Commandos earlier, with the Suicide Squad, with Peacemaker, season one. And I was like, yeah, this seems like a good approach. Don't greenlight anything until the script is done so you can start locking in everything else. But now it seems to be a little problematic. It seems to be a bit problematic. Now, here's why. You've got to keep people excited. It just can't be. And Matt Reeves is probably the worst example of this. um, the best example or the worst example, but it's like, yes, we understand your quality is there, we understand your quality, your talent as a creator, as a writer, as a filmmaker, whatever, right? But you still got to understand that you got to serve the audience a brilliant movie, an excellent movie, no matter how good it is. But if it is not released at the right time, with the right marketing, with the right approach, it's not going to land well. People are not going to watch it. Like, Blue Beetle was a pretty good movie from what I've heard, but I've also heard that a lot of people, including myself, did not watch Blue Beetle because we knew that the the universe is pretty much ending, and it's gonna be a reset button at the end of this journey, and James Gunn is gonna start all over again. So why bother watching all of this crap? Um, might as well just start fresh with whatever James Gunn comes up with. Over here, the thing is that when you had a bit of momentum, you know that fans are craving for more, they want more. Do you really want to go for these deep cut characters or these B and C and D tier characters? Because if you want to get your universe off the ground, now Iron Man is not an example, it is an exception. It is an anomaly because no one expected Iron Man to do as well as it did. But Quickly after Iron Man, they backed it up with a Hulk movie, which did not work too well. But nevertheless, Hulk is still like one of the A-tier characters. Immediately, they go on to Thor, they go on to Captain America, they get down to the Avengers. Over here, you've given us Creature Commandos, you've given us Peacemaker, you've given us Superman. But all of these moving pieces, they feel really disconnected. I mean, the first chapter of the DC universe is called Gods and Monsters. Remind me what gods and monsters have we got until now? I mean, Superman, yes, is like one of those god level figures in the DC lore, but apart from him, who? Peacemaker. Did we get a god or a monster in that show? Um, Creature Commandos, again, like I think DC is kind of struggling to build its identity now. And the moment that they had a bit of momentum where, they could have pushed on with it, they did not pursue. Um, there was a lot of analysis paralysis. And again, they've kind of lost all the momentum. I had a few points written down here. So, like I mentioned earlier, they don't have any upcoming projects that have been locked in, that have been greenlit, that we know for certainty are happening, except for the Man of Tomorrow. We know what's coming out this year, but for next year, there's only one movie. As a new universe, as a new cinematic universe, is that enough to keep us on the hook? The next thing is that there was poor marketing with lanterns. Again, I spoke about it at length, that how the lanterns release wasn't really handled well. The promotional release, now that the show is actually about to come out, I think its first episode is going to drop on the 7th of August, and it's going to be a weekly feature. But I'm probably going to wait and just binge watch the whole show once all the episodes are out. But yeah, it's a show that had a lot of potential, that still has a lot of potential, but I don't think it's really been marketed as well. There was a lost opportunity at San Diego Comic Con as well. DC Studios, when you know your biggest competition in the business is Marvel Studios, right? And they've started the San Diego Comic Con a week before the event actually starts. Just look at what those guys are doing. They've Kevin Feige started doing his press tours before San Diego Comic Con. Um, he's done his Spider-Man promotional tour as well. This guy is giving bites. He's, the good, the bad, the ugly, anything, but he is in the news. Within the Comic Con itself, within San Diego Comic Con at Hall H, we get to know about Ghost Rider, we get to know about Black Panther 3, we get to see the cast of Avengers Doomsday, which is going to be the biggest Avengers event or the biggest Marvel event in a really long time. Um, they, they've kind of hijacked all the headlines, right? All the media outlets, everything. They own everything. For you to compete with them, you need to give us something. You need to give the fans something. You need to capture a few headlines. You need to, um, grab our attention. What do we get? We get a Lanterns panel. We get a new Lanterns trailer, which again is a TV show. We don't even get a test footage from, from the Man of Tomorrow, which is happening next year, which is releasing next year, and which has started shooting already. We don't get any new names, any casting announcements. We don't get any title announcements. We don't get any movie announcements that this is what's going to come out. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I felt like that is a massive missed opportunity. Like, I understand there's like a CinemaCon, there are these other events, there's like um, the event that Warner Brothers also do in house, but nothing comes close to San Diego Comic Con when it's about pop culture. So that was a big missed opportunity. Um, In their defense, I think there is a lot of uncertainty right now at DC, and that's not just about the upcoming projects, within DC itself. But I think across the board at Warner Brothers, there is a lot of uncertainty because they have been up for sale last year. Netflix almost won the bid. Netflix was all set to acquire Warner Brothers. Um, and then Paramount came in at the last moment, hijacked that whole deal, and it is such a mess right now. Like, I was pretty embarrassed because I put up a shot on TMB um, the day Netflix was approved to acquire Warner Brothers, and I was like, "Hey, this is what's happening, and this is what it could mean." But suddenly, what happens is, um, it's like, no, that's not possible. Paramount challenges that bid. um, they try and get, what do they call it, an aggressive takeover or something. There's like a very specific word for it. um, and then now these different state governments and different international governments and countries are trying to block this merger on different grounds. So that left me quite embarrassed. That's like one of the reasons that I am not covering the whole the whole Warner Brothers acquisition anymore on TMB until I know that it is written in stone that this is what's going to happen. But I think with all of that, when your company is kind of preparing to be acquired by another company, you start following a more um, lean and a more agile approach. I know this is like a very IT terminology, but essentially what it means is that you're not planning and thinking too far into the future. You're trying to keep it relatively short term and going from one project to the next. So I think that entire uh, Paramount Warner Brothers fiasco has also fed into the entire uncertainty around DC, and that makes me really sad because I was so excited about DC. I still am excited for Man of Tomorrow, but I think I need a lot more than just one movie to keep me on as a fan of this new cinematic universe. Um, so those were just my thoughts, but what do you guys think about this? What do you feel? What's going on with DC? Have they really lost their momentum, or am I reading too much into it and things aren't really that bad? Whatever your thoughts, please drop them in the comments. And with that, we move on to the next section, which is the trailer reaction. So last week we had a ton of trailers that had dropped, especially because it was the Comic Con. But this week it's just been the one trailer, which is the Ramayana Part One trailer. Now this movie is gonna release in Diwali this year, in November 2025, basically 2026. I'm sorry, my apologies. And we got our first trailer. Now, the first teaser that we had that came out, I think a couple of months ago, um, it was a decent teaser, but I still felt like it was lacking with its CGI and its special effects in a few places. Like there were a few sequences that felt really choppy, a few actions and movements that felt kind of choppy in this one. And I said it in my trailer reaction. I did it as a short earlier this week. This feels like a massive cleanup on that one. I did also mention that Yash's voice it took a bit of getting used to for me because um, he's got an excellent voice when he's out loud, and he's got that growl and that rough voice. But when he's just trying to talk at a normal volume, he's got a slightly lower pitch, which I'm not a big fan of. But just looking at him, it took a bit of getting used to. But I am looking forward to Yash as Ravan. um, Ranbir Kapoor looks, yeah, he looks decent. He looks all right. I mean, the only thing is that for the role of Ram, maybe um, It would have been nice to have an actor who does not have as much of a star quotient, because um, for now, just looking at the Ramayana trailer, I am not seeing Lord Ram yet. All I can see is just Ranbir Kapoor, the actor, the superstar, in costume. But I think in a lot of cases, you just got to watch a movie, give it like 2 to 3 minutes until the characters feel settled, and then it works like a magic. But that is one thing. The other thing, um, and this is like the negative bit, right? These are the bits that I'm slightly concerned about, the bits that I'm slightly worried about, whatever, right? And I mentioned this on my YouTube short as well. Ramayana as a story is as significant to India as the Odyssey is to Greek culture, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. But Greek mythology, all of Homer's works, and everyone who came after him, it has seeped into international culture through the years. Like even someone sitting in India might be aware of a few characters from Greek mythology, from Roman mythology, someone sitting in China, whatever, right? Indian mythology is quite extensively and deeply read in India specifically. We do not know how deep Indian mythology has penetrated into other cultures and other nationalities, right? Uh, do a lot of people sitting in the US really know about Ramayana? A lot of people sitting in UK, do they really know about Ramayana? And I'm talking about people who are not of Indian origin. Like if someone is of Indian origin, even if they're like a second gen, born there, they would still know a bit of about Ramayana from their parents or something, right? But someone of Caucasian descent or someone of African descent or Chinese, Asian descent, right? Would they really know what Ramayana is all about? Would they be able to enjoy this trailer the way someone like me could? Because I am aware of the lore. I instantly recognized every single character. I know a lot of the smaller stories that is part of a bigger epic. So, an international audience watching this theater, yes, they would be floored, uh, I presume, by the special effects of this trailer. But does this trailer work for them who don't know anything about the Ramayana, anything about the characters? Would they really be intrigued um, to watch this movie? So that was one question that I had. The second question, and this wasn't on the show notes, I just saw the poster right now and I thought about it. So it says filmed for IMAX. That's excellent. That's excellent because the studio that's worked on this movie, rather DNEG, they're known for carrying out some of the best special effects work, some of the best VFX CGI work, um, on some of the biggest projects in world cinema. Whether you're talking Marvel Studios, whether you're talking DC, all of that, they've worked on a lot of them, right? So they're like almost the gold standard when it comes to VFX and CGI in cinema across the world. But when it says filmed for IMAX, now it is good in the sense that people watching this in IMAX would actually have a better experience, like a lot of people watching the Odyssey in IMAX compared to, you know, a, a regular widescreen theater. So yes, that experience has a difference. But here's the point, right? This being an Indian epic, and sad as it may be, India has just got the one IMAX screen, and even that IMAX screen is like, and I'm talking a 70 mm IMAX. That 70 mm IMAX screen um, is in a planetarium, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like a commercial IMAX theater. There's a lot of digital IMAX theaters popping around India, which I'm glad. A lot of digital IMAX or Limax, as a lot of them say. Um, but when you say it is filmed for IMAX, when you know that the country the story originates from, and the country where the story has such a massive fan following, they don't have any IMAX. So uh, when you say film for IMAX, does that really work in favor of the movie or not? So that is the other thing. I hope I'm making some sense here. Um, so yeah, with those two thoughts, I think that gives me a bit to think about. But all in all, I think the trailer still looked pretty good. I'm going to be traveling back home for Diwali again, so I'm going to be with family, and I'm pretty certain that the entire family is going to go to the theater to watch this movie. It's going to be a good experience, like at least for the music, the special effects, um, the story itself. I don't think it's going to be as disappointing as Adi Purush, which was an abomination. But those are just my thoughts. What did you guys think about this Ramayana trailer? Please don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments below. And this is the bit where I open the floor to you guys. So if you've got any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to ask me specifically, this is your opportunity. But because we're running a little late right now, I'm just going to push through. In case there's anything in the comments that pops up, I'm still going to address it, but I'm just going to keep pushing through. Um, Now, I did say that I don't have a watch list prep for you guys formally, but I had an idea. And this, this came to me just 10 minutes before I went live. So the theme for this week's watch list is this is a football special. We've just finished the FIFA World Cup, and we are about to embark on this journey with Ted Lasso. So I felt like it was the perfect opportunity to discuss some football related content that you could check out. Um, and what I have is a mix of movies, TV shows, a docu series, all of that. So the first one that I really want to bring about is, what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to look the IMDb and I'm going to share my screen so you guys know what exactly is it that I'm talking about. Uh, okay, stop sharing my screen there. And now this, yeah. All right. So this is the first one that I would strongly recommend. Um, don't go on the rating. Like, I know the rating's bad, but it is such a great experience. Um, so there's three goal movies. The first one is The Dream Begins. The second one is Living the Dream, and the third one is just Goal Three. Uh, where do we go? Yep. So you've got Dream Begins. Then there's Living the Dream, and then there is Goal Three, Taking on the World. Now, in the first one, it's basically about a Brazilian football prodigy and how he gets picked up to play in the English Premier League. I think he gets picked up by Newcastle United, and then how life is for him, coming from Brazil, getting used to living in England. The cultural. The cultural shock of moving from a country like Brazil to suddenly coming to England and then competing at the highest level in the English Premier League um, with Newcastle United. So that was the first goal. The second one is that this guy gets, he gets transferred to Los Galacticos to Real Madrid, and man, this is my favorite of the trilogy. A lot of people swear by the first one. I think the first one also has a better rating, but this one, because first and foremost it is Real Madrid, and it is the best Real Madrid lineup that this team has ever had. I mean, think think David Beckham, think Zinedine Zidane. Uh, I mean, you can just look at the right, like with Ronaldo, uh, and you get a lot of other players. You get to see Lamborghinis. You get to see these swanky. These swanky villas that these athletes live in, the streets of all of it. Like, it is a total football experience. I strongly recommend this movie. The third one, I think, was a limited release, but that is more along the lines of the World Cup. um, yeah, yeah, this was the FIFA World Cup finals. So this one was like kind of decent. I think for me, my favorite is still Goal 2. So I think this is a trilogy that you should really check out. It's gonna be a great experience. Is actually on my list, and I'm so glad it's just popped up here. Is Pele: Birth of a Legend. Now, this is a movie that I watched during the pandemic. I had a friend recommend it to me. Shout out to Kiran here, who appeared on on TMB, I think last month. Yeah, when we were discussing Supergirl and our expectations. So he recommended this movie to me. We watched this together. Now, I don't have to say a lot about Pele. Like, Pele is what a lot of people say is the god of football. Um, a once in a lifetime generational talent. He redefined football. He redefined Brazilian football culture, and this movie is such a it's such a joy to watch. It is such a beautifully made movie. The rating's pretty good, but again, like how this kid, this player who loves the sport, connects that sport to his cultural roots, to his heritage, brings them together to create his own style of play, which makes him a legend of the game, right? So it is such a great movie, some excellent performances. Strongly recommend that you go and check out this movie. You should be able to find it. We got to see where we can actually watch it. Yeah, I mean, you should be able to rent this movie, or it might actually be on. What do you call it? Usually on here on IMDb, it even shows where you can stream it. It's not showing that. But I think if you just run a quick Google search, you should be able to see where you can stream this movie. It's a great one. Uh, Now, the next one that I want to talk about is Welcome to Wrexham. So you might have already heard the name, but this is a docu series that's been produced by Ryan Reynolds. So for those of you who are not aware, Ryan Reynolds actually owns a football team called Wrexham FC. It's a Welsh football club, not very well to do, but then he decided to buy a team, made an entire show around it as well. So this is a docu series. Again, I'm saying it's not like a movie or a TV show. It's a docu series. So you get to see real players, real athletes, what their struggles were, how do they train, how does Ryan Reynolds actually come to terms with being the owner of a team. And also you've got the other dude, just forgetting his name. Yeah, so Rob McElhenney. You may know him from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So it's a great docu series. It is a very realistic portrayal of what it is like, um, for players competing at a very grassroots level. What does the behind the scenes of a football club look like, and not like the most affluent football club. um, so yeah, it's a great docu series. Strongly recommend you guys should check it out. I think it's got like 3 or 4 seasons by now. Yeah, so it's got 5 seasons actually, I'm mistaken. Yeah. So it's a great show, great docu series. I think you're gonna have a lot of fun watching this. And the final one that I've got on my list is Ted Lasso, baby. The final, not the final, the latest season is dropping now. So it's about time you revisit the first 3 seasons. Um, just familiarize yourself with the characters. Just get to know them once again if you've watched it already. Um, and just prep yourself for the latest season, for the fourth season. And yeah, that is it. That is my watch list for you guys. So um, please let me know in the comments if you've watched any of these, which one's your favorite, which one are you excited for, or any other thoughts. Please drop them in the comments below. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm also gonna pop this as a short on YouTube and on Instagram, so you guys can save it and check it out whenever you've got time. And with that, I think it's time to bring our Sunday show to an end. My thanks to all of you who joined the live stream, who joined the Sunday show this time around. And like always, I will be doing the Sunday show next Sunday, where I would have more topics to talk about, more interesting things, and anything that comes out of the news. Sorry, just. Yep. So here's a few things that I'm pretty certain that I'm gonna be talking next weekend, next Sunday. So I will be coming at you with my Batman Cape Crusader review. I would hopefully also be coming at you with my Ted Lasso season 4 review. I hope I'm able to finish the show before our next live stream. Um, and there's going to be much more, because we know pop culture things are always happening. There's always something or the other that's going on. So I would be bringing all of those to you. And once again, thank you so much to all of you, and please keep an eye out for my Spider-Man deep dive video that I'm going to be dropping sometime this week. And in the meantime, if you like whatever I've been doing, if you like my content, if you enjoy whatever I bring for you guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, share this video, this live stream link, or any of the other videos with your fellow nerds, fellow geeks, fellow fans, fellow pop culture enthusiasts. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to the Millennial Bard for the latest and the best in superheroes, cinema, and pop culture. This is your boy Sid, and I'll see all of you next Sunday live right here at this time.